Hello and welcome to State of the Union. I'm Stefan Grobe in Brussels. This week, Bletchley Park made history again as host of the world's first Artificial Intelligence Safety Summit. The historic site between London and Birmingham is regarded as one of the birthplaces of computer science and famous for its crucial role in World War II code-breaking. It was here where Prime Minister Rishi Sunak gathered big-name technology executives and global leaders to discuss the challenges and many unknowns presented by the rapid advancement of AI. In other words, a perfect setting for what Sunak compared to an existential threat to humanity as we know it.
There's debate about this topic. People in the industry themselves don't agree, and we can't be certain. But there is a case to believe that it may pose risks on a scale like pandemics and nuclear war. And that's why, as leaders, we have a responsibility to act, to take the steps to protect people. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Participants, including, remarkably, the US, China, and the EU, signed the Bletchley Declaration that aims to tackle the risks of so-called frontier AI language models developed by companies such as OpenAI. That technology has the potential for serious, even catastrophic harm, according to the signatories. Serious harm. That is what could befall some Balkan candidate countries if they didn't step up efforts to get in line with the EU in order to gain membership. That was the message delivered by Ursula von der Leyen during her trip to the region this week. A major country that needed this reminder was Serbia, as Belgrade is still unwilling to recognize Kosovo and pass sanctions against Russia.
So my message is basically twofold. Let's do the homework. Please do your homework. And let's get ready and let's seize the moment to really have a substantial step forward in the enlargement process.
Not everybody is happy with the prospect of Serbia and Kosovo joining the EU, as both haven't fully subscribed to democratic principles yet. But the enlargement should strengthen the democratic EU, not weaken it, especially in light of a study released this week about the state of democracy in Europe and around the world. Joining me now is Seema Shah, Head of Democracy Assessment at the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance in Stockholm. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dr. Shah, you're the lead author of the Institute's latest global report on the state of democracy. Now, I have a feeling that you're not a bearer of good tidings, but how bad is it?
It's not great. This is the 6th consecutive year of declines in our data set, the longest such period we've seen since we started collecting data. On the other hand, the news is not all bad. We have very encouraging developments in certain countries around the world.
Of course, reading the report, I was quite surprised by the fact that several EU countries made it to the list of bad actors. I mean, not Hungary, of course, but Austria, Italy, and Portugal. What happened there?
So it's important to remember that Europe remains the highest performing region in the world. Of course, in certain countries, including high-performing countries, there have been really important declines. These countries remain high-performing, but it's important to stem those declines now before they become more serious. So we've seen things like restrictions on freedom of expression, freedom of the press, and rule of law across Europe and in those countries specifically.
Do you also see any encouraging signs in Europe?
We have identified some countries in Central Europe as sort of the new epicenter of democratic growth in the region. We've seen really significant growth in countries like Moldova, Armenia, Slovenia, and the advances have been quite dramatic in some cases.
Could you be more specific, please?
Sure. So
the dramatic cases?
In freedom of expression, for example, that's something that has declined around the world. But in Armenia and Moldova, it has actually increased. In Slovenia, we saw that a referendum voted in reforms to strengthen the independence of the public broadcaster. That was a huge win for media there. We see a new court in Moldova, which is focused specifically on corruption, which probably contributes to the improvement in their absence of corruption score. Those are some individual country level examples.
So in general and globally, we see that democracy is under attack. How can the guardrails of democracies be improved?
We need to focus on the institutions that are faltering. So across the world, we see declines in credible elections, effective parliament, and access to justice. So we need to focus on transparency and in the legislatures around the world and their strength and the rigor with which they conduct their activities.
All right, Seema Shah, Head of Democracy Assessment at International IDEA. Thank you for breaking it all down for us.
Thank you so much.
Speaking of democratic values, youngsters under 18 have been barred from visiting parts of this year's prestigious World Press Photo Exhibition in Budapest. The reason? Hungary's right-wing government determined that some photos violate a controversial law restricting LGBTQ content. Sparking the ire of a populist lawmaker was a set of 5 photos by a photographer from the Philippines showing some members of that country's LGBTQ community dressed in drag and wearing makeup. The lawmaker filed a complaint with Hungary's Cultural Ministry, which found that these pictures cannot be shown to minors. Yet practically, the measure is not being enforced. World Press Photo said it was the first time the organization faced censorship for a certain type of audience in Europe. Such a treatment was sad and worrisome, they said. By the way, the exhibition also features horrific pictures from the war in Ukraine. But for Hungary's morality police, these are less shocking for kids to see than a drag queen. That's it for this edition. I'm Stefan Grobe. Thank you for watching. Have an excellent week.